Hey guys, welcome to another Repot and Chat. I haven't done one of these in a while and I thought we were a little bit overdue. So same sort of deal as usual. I asked you guys on Instagram to submit some questions and topics. And as usual, I cannot guarantee that I do not go off on some random tangent somewhere else. I don't know if you can read this on my face, but this room is uncomfortably hot. So we're going to do what we can. I have quite a bit of repotting to do, but I only have this much substrate. I can mix more, but the thought of going up and down the stairs with substrate and mixing it all up and slowly passing away is not my ideal day. So we're gonna repot what we can with this substrate, which may feel like a lot, but the plants, there's two plants I want to work on today that are quite big and they're going into quite big pots. These are the massive pots that I got from Jing. There's this size, which is 8-inch. I don't know if we're going to use that today. And then there's this size, which is 25 centimeters. What is 25 centimeters? Is that 10 inches? Divided by 2.2, whatever that is, something like 10 inches. I think we're probably going to use this one. And then I have this one, which is 12 inches, 30 centimeters, something close to 12 inches, which is quite massive. I don't even think I have anything that's ready for this size of a pot yet, but even if we did, I'm not going to use this pot because that would use up all of my substrate. By the way, Jing does sell these pots on her website, planthappens.com, but she's taking some time off for summer holidays, so I believe the website should be closed right now. So anyway, this video is going to be a little bit more of a hangout that you kind of just like throw on in the background while you go about your day. I'm going to show you the plants that we work on as we get to them because I just don't know how many we're going to get through, so I don't want to show you like a lineup of like 10 plants and we don't even get through half of them. As usual, we are repotting on my perlite bin. I was actually looking online to find like a collapsible tea table that I can just like whip out for repots because I like to sit on the floor for my own personal comfort, but also like the lighting down here is so much better than lighting like if I'm sitting on a chair, because I have like a higher table that I sometimes use when I'm repotting on my own. I think mainly because the tent lights me and then the softbox is kind of like above me. It just looks a little bit more even. But then I was thinking like the perlite bin works. You guys aren't really looking at the table that I'm using, and why spend much money when few money does trick. Okay, this is a trigger warning for arachnophobes. This is my Woo One self, Carla, and there is a spider, like literal cobwebs on this plant, and we need to rehome the spider before we start repotting, but we are going to do a lot of cleanup on this thing. This is the newest leaf. It's flowered for me countless times. It's made 2 batches of berries. It is pretty root bound in here. I think I might try to take a cutting and in general just cut off a lot of ugly leaves and bury it deeper in the pot. So I'm not sure, like once I take the cutting, I might need not that big of a pot, but we'll see. Okay, let's just move this spider if you will cooperate with me. I actually don't know where he went. I feel like he went into the soil, which means he's just gonna get crushed. I keep seeing glimpses of him just like zooming past, like pew. Okay, well, he can just go find somewhere else to be while we clean this up. I'm gonna remove this flower that I forgot to collect the pollen on. Okay, before I get started on this, let's pick a question. I have like a mix of personal and planting questions, which I feel like I'm just gonna randomly go back and forth between. Actually, let's get one out of the way that I feel like, I don't know what it is about now. It's almost like every single video and every single week I get at least one question asking me where I get pots from. And I would have expected it a little bit more like a few years ago, but these like clear pots, like not just these ones, these like square ones, but just round square pots in general, they're so easy to find now, especially when like you have access to like Temu and AliExpress and stuff, but that's generally where I would say to get them. And people want specific links and I can't give you that because I've never ordered it specifically from those places. Like originally when I first got these pots years ago, they were from Jing. She had ordered them from, I want to say it was Alibaba, and she was selling them locally, and that was where I got my pots. And then she stopped selling them, but she still had quite a lot of stock herself. So whenever I ran out of them, I would just like buy more from her, and she just, I think, is now out of them. But then luckily for me, Charmaine decided she doesn't like these square pots anymore. So she's been like, as soon as she gets a plant out of a square pot, she just like collects them and gives them to me. So I don't think I need to buy any for a while. And also she now has those like giant, like round, well, she has all sizes from like 2.5 inch to 12 inch, I think is the biggest. I am going to loosen all the soil off, by the way, because I want to see if I can take a cutting. This plant is a breeding mother plant for me, but because it is so haggard and I really want to give it a long break from making berries, I'm not going to like put pollen on it anytime soon. If anything, I'll just take pollen off of it and breed other plants with it. But the unfortunate thing is the last time I tried to do that, I took pollen off of it to breed something else, and that ended up, I believe, selfing the plant. But as much as possible, I'm gonna try to avoid having it be a mother. This is so hard to loosen. Okay, well that's good because I can ramble while I like slowly work at the roots. But yeah, to close off the pot thing, the square pots are so popular that there are so many sellers in North America that sell them. But if you want to go directly to the source and get them from China, then that would probably be the cheapest, but you'd probably end up with a lot of pots. So I haven't really looked for them, but I've done quick searches like on Temu and AliExpress to make sure that they are indeed there. But if you search like square plant pot or square clear plant pot or clear plant pot, like there's a lot of options that come up, and I do think the only square ones are these ones. There's multiple sellers that sell this, but they're all the same, I believe. One thing I will say is that when you order a huge amount of the square pots and they ship them like by ship overseas, a lot of them will come in with cracks, like the rim of the pot will like be cracked off and stuff. Sometimes the bottom of it will be cracked, so you'd be losing a few pots this way. Jing said the round pots shipped a lot better. There's a very few, if any, that were damaged. I think they're just like a little bit more, a bit less brittle. I'm just trying to find the bottom of the stem right now and see how deep. Okay, it's about there. I don't know if I'm going to be able to take a cutting actually. Like there's this much stem. You see my fingers, but up here there's not enough roots to support the plant, so I'd be left with like a few like these, but most of the roots, like all of this, is connected to like the bottom 2 centimeters. So I guess we're just gonna repot you, and I'm going to cut off a lot of these ugly leaves like this. Yeah, definitely this one. I'm actually just gonna leave these two on, even though it's going to look really silly because they're so far apart from each other. They're almost like different plants. So I'm going to leave this root mass intact. This is a mix of Pro Mix, the high porosity Myco Mix, and tree fern fiber. And I'm just going to double check if this is a good size. Yeah, I think that's good. I'm actually just going to reuse the leca from the previous pot. I think I'm not gonna do the hugest leca layer. I think that will be fine. Okay, I also want to run through some like people wanting updates on certain things. So first one is like, how are the dogs? I haven't seen them in a while. I haven't shown them very often in the last year or so. Basically ever since we got Doug. And can you believe Doug is 2 years old now? He just turned 2 on July 4th. It feels like so recently. I was doing that repot for when we just got Doug, and I was talking about like how I had the puppy blues and stuff, and people were like, okay, well I was thinking about getting a dog, but listening to you, I'm like, no, I can't deal with that right now. So for anyone who doesn't know, we have 2 dogs. We did have 3, but our oldest, Rick, who was an English bulldog, passed away from cancer. He was about 12 years old when he passed, and I'm not going to get into like the grief and everything, but I felt really nervous about Huxley specifically because Huxley grew up with Rick, and I wanted to get a read on like what he understood about the situation, because prior to Rick's passing, Huxley usually like there's a time of day when he bothers Rick. Like he'll jump on him and just do that like annoying little brother thing. But ever since it was really clear that Rick was unwell, he just stopped. He just stopped bothering him, but he would go up to him every night and just kind of like groom his face. So I do think he understood that Rick was unwell and he was trying to comfort him and show him like love. I don't think Doug had any clue, or if he did not care. And then when we got home after bringing Rick to the vet to say goodbye, it's not often that we take Rick out, like when we take him, you know, on a car ride somewhere to a destination. Is ever since he got really old and he can't really do long walks anymore. So I do think Huxley was curious like where we took him. And then when we got home, Rick wasn't with us. And this happens like, you know, this has happened multiple times in Huxley's life where we took Rick out and he didn't come home with us because someone has asked to like have Rick for a week or whatever. But this time Huxley was just like staring at us. Like he was like searching our faces for answers. And then in the days after, Huxley would just like, we've kept and we still have Rick's bed in the same spot it always was. And Huxley would just curl up in the little indent in this, I'm gonna cry. Huxley would lay in the little dent in the middle. He kind of stopped doing that after a few weeks. I don't know if it's because it got too warm for him to lay in a bed, but yeah, he kind of stopped doing that. But just yesterday, Doug was laying in the bed and he doesn't usually do that. And I was like, oh, you're laying in Ricky's bed. Do you remember Ricky? And then when I said Ricky, Huxley was like elsewhere in the room. He jumped up really quickly and he ran to the gate. And just like hearing Rick's name, I thought maybe he thought like Rick was coming, or like, you know, Rick was just at the door and he was like waiting for him to just like walk through. So yeah, I truly don't think he understands what happened to him. I do think he thought Rick went somewhere fun without him. And then, as I said, Doug doesn't seem to be bothered at all. He doesn't really react. I don't think he knew Rick well enough, even though he had spent more than a year with him. But because he spends so much more time with Huxley and they're the ones playing together and like sleeping and snuggling together, he's like a lot more attached to Huxley, obviously. When Doug was a puppy, we kind of tried to keep them away. So we kept Huxley with Doug, so Doug has a companion, but we tried to keep Doug away from Rick because he was like older and he just didn't really want any part of like the puppy shenanigans. Okay, this one is done. I could put more substrate on it. I might later, but for now I'm just gonna leave it here because we used up half the bin. And by the way, I forgot to mention, this is tree fern fiber mixed with my DIY pond, which is amended with extra perlite. I don't think this will fit this saucer. Oh, it just barely fits. I'm just gonna inoculate it with some great white, which by the way was a question that I got. Someone was like, I heard you don't mind the smell of great white. How? Great white to me smells like it just smells like mushrooms. It's a very strong, earthy, mushroomy smell, which I guess it just, to me, it doesn't read as stink. I'm not like smelling it like some wonderful fragrance, but I guess the reason why it doesn't stink to me is that it doesn't smell like decay. It actually smells quite a bit like life. To me, it would smell like if I were to dig into some old growth forest and like smell the earth. I feel like that's like kind of a bit of what it would smell like. The things that like really stink to me is actually the stinkiest thing in plant care, and I've never used neem oil a day in my life, so I can't speak to neem oil or other things like that that stink. But acephate, the systemic pesticide, I think it targets spider mites, possibly thrips, I'm not really sure, but acephate is disgusting. One time Jane got a bottle of acephate, I think it was a Bonide brand acephate, and then she gave me a little bottle of it because it's quite a small dilution, or it's very concentrated, so you need a very little to dilute. That to me smells like rotting vegetables, like rot upon rot upon rot. It's so stinky, and when you use it, it kind of lingers for a little while, and it is honestly awful. I will not use it anymore just for how much it smells. The other day I was at Jing's house and I was like, Jing, I don't know if you know that corner of your room stinks. It smells disgusting. And lo and behold, there was a bottle of acephate there. So I feel like every repot and chat, I need to talk about like things I've been watching and listening to lately, even though like very few people ask these days. Or I guess just say nobody asked this time around. But I just started, so I mentioned before that like I listen to a lot of Rotten Mango when I want to listen to true crime, but I've also mentioned before that like if I listen to too much true crime, I get into quite a heavy and negative headspace. So it's a bit of like a personal rule that I don't listen to true crime on filming days, because then I show up on camera like really like just in a state of despair. So I'm always looking for a little bit more lighthearted things to listen to. And since she's been on a little bit of a break, I started listening to Amy Poehler's podcast, Good Hang, and that has been like I just started binging it like a few days ago, and it's very good. Like it's what you would expect from Amy Poehler. It's just her mainly, like it's like a pretty new podcast, so there's not that many episodes yet, but it's mainly her and her friends, and of course her friends are all highly funny, highly intelligent people, and a lot of them are women that I love, and they obviously know each other really well, and they love and respect each other so much. And then just I think there's a lot to be said about female friendship. By the way, I'm going to start working on my next one, which is the Macris Carla. I had taken a couple of cuttings at the tail end of last year, and then I cut all the leaves off when I was cleaning up my tent, and it put out a leaf that got super wonky, so I cut that one off, and then it recently put out this one. So finally a really nice one. I think it's ready to be upsized, especially because I want to move this onto my shelf, and this little 5-inch pot will just dry out too fast. So I think I'm gonna get it into, let's see, is this too big? I mean, it's a little ridiculous. I don't think I think this is big enough of an upsize. What is this fluff? Do you see this fluff? Where did that come from? So Good Hang. One of my favorite episodes, I haven't listened to them all, but one of my favorite episodes was with Catherine Hahn. There was just so many parts of it that I was laughing out loud. Also, the first episode, Tina Fey was the guest. And then she does this thing at the beginning where she zooms one or more people that know that guest really well, and then they like talk nice things about them behind their back, and then those people offer up questions that they want to see asked. So for Tina Fey, there was like Seth Meyers, Rachel Dratch, and Rachel Dratch was like so unhinged and like such a mess. She was like not ready for the Zoom. She was like setting up, and then she was getting her earphones, and she was getting tangled up in the earphones, and then like the doorbell rings because she had ordered food, and the dogs start barking. I'm not gonna spoil the rest of the podcast for you, but I really enjoy Amy Poehler, and it made me want to watch Parks and Rec over again. So I'm watching Parks and Rec like starting from the beginning and watching it straight through again. Oh, there's like myco in here. Like I see the little hyphae. I want to say that's mycorrhizal fungi, but this little like webby white stuff, am I showing you the right side of it? Can you see any of that in the soil? I think I'm just going to keep this intact because it's obviously, you know, there's like some sort of ecosystem happening in there. But there's a lot of shows I like to go back through and watch the whole thing. Like years after I last watched it. So we just did that with Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's just nice to have that in between binge watching like a new series. Like we just finished the new Squid Game. Well, we didn't just finish, but we finished the last series we watched was the latest season of Squid Game, which was not great. I wasn't really a big fan of that last season. And I think I have this fondness for comedians because I want to say the majority of like comedy legends did not come from wealth, and they have lived full lives that are as normal people. Something I really like, I think, or I find really, what's the word? Not relatable. Something I find nice. That's not a better word. But one of the reasons why I really like British comedy, especially like when it's comedians doing some sort of like panel show or something like that, which is like not scripted. I really enjoy British humor, but also at the same time, I think a lot of British comedians are not very, very wealthy. So I think a lot of them live lives like very similar to a lot of us. But what I loved about Amy's podcast is like a lot of the guests, or what I find her best episodes were people that she has known a long time. And literally you're just listening to them hanging out, and they're so funny. And I'm always in awe of a comedian's brain, like how quick they are. Like they'll just like be bantering, and then like 2 minutes later they have this like fully developed like bit. I can only imagine how incredible it must be to know someone like that who's just like their mind works at a speed that I can't even comprehend. I think this one is also done. It looks so cute. I think it'll be really nice on my shelf, and I think based on me like hacking all its leaves off and it like bouncing back with like no care in the world, I think it'll do fine in ambient. And the feeling I get from Amy is that she's a really, really good friend that works really hard at her friendships. But when you put two really funny women together, it's just like magic. I think women right now are doing such magical things on TV. And this is totally unrelated, but like in wrestling right now, women's wrestling is the best wrestling on TV right now. If you are watching WWE on Netflix, the men are forgettable. They're recycling material. Women have the most exciting matches, better entertainment, better wrestling, just a lot more heart, and it's just like so nice to see. But anyway, if you are a fan of comedy, fan of SNL, fan of Parks and Rec, I highly recommend Amy's podcast. If you haven't watched it already, it's like probably like number 5 in the world right now, so chances are you've already watched it or listened to it. The next plant I want to do is this one. This is a Pallidiflorum minero. This is the product of the third time I broke a Pallidiflorum. There was one night where in like the middle of the night, the dog started barking like crazy, and it was because this had fallen off the shelf and I didn't know, like I didn't hear the actual sound, I just heard them barking. So in the morning, my boyfriend came to me and was like, Alice, a plant fell in the night, it broke, and then like he was trying to break it to me really gently. But this is the stump. The top cutting, which had no roots, I've had in water for a while and it has like a full root system. I just need to pot it up. But this one, it sprouted, it only sprouted one growth point, which I expected more, but that's fine. This is actively growing. This is the newest leaf right here. I basically want to down pot it to, I don't know if it's going to work, but one of these two pots. Because I'm not keeping it, I'm going to repot it, get it to grow new roots from the new offshoot, and then I'll probably just sell it. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm going to be trimming a lot of roots, and I typically don't do this that often, but I will do it with a plant that I feel confident on its ability to root, and the Pallidiflorum is definitely one of them. So I had a question asking me how I'm enjoying the new shelves behind me. If you missed that video, it's this video right here. I am so happy about the shelf. I love it so much. It's such a good functional system and so customizable. I do want to do another one. Like behind you, there's a little like closet. It's an open closet. There's no door on it. It's in a weird spot of the room where there's like, I think a structural beam across the top and then like another slope for the roof. So it's like a weird shape that you can't really get a door on. Right now I just have a little narrow shelf unit shoved in there, but I want to take that shelf out, sell it, and install another bow axle in there. I think it'll just hold a ton more things. And basically I just want a lot more empty space in like the main area of this room, because it's a constant battle of like me shoving plants like random spots on the floor when they don't have a place. And I just want everything to have a place, and I want my collection to be a size where the plants can grow. I mean, that's always wishful thinking, right? But I still have to finish painting this room. I haven't finished a lot of the things that need to be done because I've just been so busy. And I actually don't know if this video is going to go out on my usual upload day because I have like half a day to edit this. So basically what I'm doing is I'm cutting off all the dead roots first, and then I'm just saving the healthy roots to the end, and then I'll cut healthy roots as needed to fit into the pot. I think I removed most of it by just like combing my fingers through it. I think we're gonna just do a little bowl cut. Ideally, I want it to be in this pot, so this will just fit. And I'll just cut a little bit more of the dead stuff off. I see a bit here. I've removed a lot of roots from this plant, but it's like for this size of a plant, this is more than enough roots for it. But yeah, in general, my life has been so consumed. My life and my brain has been so consumed with home improvement. It's been such a nice way to divert my brain, and I've been able to like enjoy the fact that I'm forced to do it really slowly because I don't have the budget to do renovations in the sense of like hiring people to do it. So working with the limitations of our abilities, but also the budget that we have for buying furniture and like things that we need. And to be honest, the majority of the things we're buying are the things that I personally want. Like me, not my boyfriend. Like I'm the one who really wants a specific clothes storage for a specific purpose, this whole specific category of things. So because I'm the one who wants it and is like really adamant about getting things, I'm the one paying for a lot of the things, and my income is just not the same as my boyfriend. So we're taking it really slow, but it's been so nice. It's been like with all the stuff that's happened, it was able to bring me out of a funk and basically breathe new interest. And I feel like I'm such a homebody, and I feel so happy to come home every day. We're still really far away from like my like quote unquote end goal, which is like it's a goalpost that's always going to continuously move as like you do things throughout the house, because you're going to change your mind about one thing. But when I think about what our house is like now and how I feel in it versus when we first moved in, I feel like I've learned a lot this year, and the more we do stuff and build things and tear things down, the more it has like demystified building. Like it felt like such a daunting process at the beginning, but after like you take something apart and you're like, oh, is that all it was? Like, is this is this the parts that was holding this thing together in the first place? And you're just like, oh, well, I guess it's like not that complicated. Obviously that doesn't apply to everything. Like building is a very it requires a lot of skill and experience to do properly, but there's little things that I feel that we can tackle on our own. I still need to show you guys the coffee bar we built in our kitchen. It's been so fun, and I've been making some really nice coffees there. Like, not to toot my own horn, but it's very enjoyable coffee. It's a coffee that if I went to a coffee shop and that's what I received with what I ordered, I would be very happy. Okay, this one is now done. It's just gonna chill on this shelf here in ambient because it came from ambient. I'm going to inoculate it a little bit later. And then once I see new root growth on the side, then I will sell it. I think our next website restyle will probably be, at the earliest, it'll be like the tail end of August, and at the latest it'll be like September sometime. Okay, next one I'm going to do is this plant that you guys have not seen before, but this one also came from Justin, who is potting it out there. He had sent some plants for us that I needed to ship to Owen in the States, and Jean was so helpful in processing the phyto and stuff, so he sent me this plant. But this one is a Papillilaminum, so it's Pap 40 from Tazula. I don't know what it actually looks like, crossed with Ralphinum Fort Sherman. I was telling Justin that I'm still on the lookout for a Pap with a wide pointy lobes, and although this one's not showing it yet, it's got a little bit more of just a pointiness in general, and I thought it was really cute. But we're going to pot this up in a 4-inch pot, and I still haven't taken the tape off. I've just been bottom watering it, and I've just had it out in ambient, and it hasn't really thrown a fit. The newest leaf is a little bit dinged up, but that's mechanical from shipping. And I don't think I'm going to upsize it too much. I'm just going to put it into the 4-inch pot. Okay, let's take a look at the roots. Ooh. This looks to be a mix of tree fern, a lot of small pumice, some bark. I think Justin, do you guys recall me talking about, Owen had recommended a mix to me that was basically tree fern, but heavily amended with, ow, there's like a piece of pond digging into my foot. So it was pumice, charcoal, tree fern, bunch of stuff, but basically it was the inspiration for the very pond heavy tree fern mix. It's nothing proprietary or anything, but Owen was saying how it was really working well for him, and he basically was recommended that by Justin, and Owen, I think, has been making it even more rocky. I don't know if I started talking about this, but I'm going to start talking about it now. This weekend is the Secret Plant Show. I had filmed doing the Secret Plant Show a few videos ago as a vendor. So Jing was sharing a booth with Hai, and I was able to kind of tag along in there, and it was absolute mayhem. As a vendor, having to be there for 8 hours plus? No, I think I was there for from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., 9 hours. It actually was probably closer to 10 hours in the end. It was a lot. It was like you couldn't move. There were so many people. So this time around, they're doing a ticketed event on the Friday. So the day before the actual show, which is it's a free event. You don't need to buy tickets. The Friday before the show is like a private event that I wanted to attend as a customer, and we're not selling this time. But this time I'm going with Charmaine, and it's in the evening. And it's not my birthday, but she wanted this to be like my birthday dinner. It's been our tradition that me, Jing, and Charmaine get together for each other's birthdays. Every year we used to include our significant others, but we're just like, that's just too much. It's too expensive, and let's just keep it between the three of us. But since Jing is on holiday, it's just going to be me and Charmaine. And then we booked reservations after the show at a place called Cafe Latana, which is an Italian restaurant. It's basically, there's a Italian restaurant, a full-on restaurant. It's called Peppino's, and then next door they've opened up a little bit more of a casual, a little bit cheaper, a little bit more intimate kind of place. It used to just be open for lunch, but it's now open for dinner, and we booked a late 9 o'clock dinner, which for us is quite late, and it feels very romantic and feels very, I don't know, European. And I feel like that's one thing about female friendship I appreciate so much. Sometimes you find yourself in a place, a scene, a situation that is very cute and it just needs to be recognized for how cute it is. Like maybe the sunset is just so, maybe the smells are like, everything is kind of working together and you need the person you're with to appreciate how cute it is. There is nothing like a woman to really truly appreciate the cuteness of whatever situation you're in. I am such a big fan of romanticizing your life, and I'm always chasing that like cute moment. Wouldn't it be so cute if blah 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 blah? And usually when you're trying to point out the cuteness, very few men can recognize it. They might just humor you and be like, oh yeah, yeah, so cute. They don't get it. It's kind of like how women can see the difference between different white paints. Very few men can. You know, like in the episode of The Office where the dinner party episode where they go to Michael and Jan's house, and then Jan was talking about like how she had the whole house repainted because it used to be so white, like super white, and now it's like a really soft white. And then Michael is like, I don't know, babe, it's just white paint. Me and my boyfriend had that moment. We were repainting part of the kitchen when we were redoing that coffee bar, and the walls just needed repainting. So I did a much nicer white. It's a lot creamier. It's eggshell versus matte, and I find matte white walls so dry, like so dehydrated, like you just want to put some juice on it. I realized that I absolutely need sheen on a wall, otherwise I find it so like desiccated. Anyways, I am very much looking forward to this pasta dinner I'm going to be having. I'm looking forward to being in a cute restaurant, eating carbs with Charmaine, and I'm also looking forward to the secret plan show. I don't think I'm going to film. I will play it by ear, but I kind of want to just like enjoy the evening off. But that's part of the reason why I'm not sure if this video is going to come out on time, because that's usually like Friday is usually the day I edit late into the day. It's my one day to edit videos. So if I don't get it done before the event, then it's going to roll into the next day. Anyway, this one is done. I think I have enough substrate for 1 or 2 more plants. Well, I have enough for a few more small plants, but I have enough for 1 big plant. So I've been wanting to do this for so long. This plant desperately needs a repot. Do you see how full it is of roots? And there's so much stem above the substrate. These roots just want to go somewhere. This is the King of Spades Red Crystal from Dania. And I think I want to try to take a cutting of this because Charmaine's been wanting a cutting for a while. One question, and forgive me, I've really not done too many planty questions. I think my brain is just not mentally there right now. I think I will save a lot of the plant care questions for a future video. Maybe for the next repot, I will do a repot that is focused on plant care questions. The thing is, because it's so hot in here, the last few times I've been filming, I've been like having to repeat myself a lot, and like I find that when it's so hot in this room, my brain doesn't work quite as well, and when I'm trying to like convey accurate information about a plant or about plant care, or accurately describe how I've been taking care of something or what I plan to do to fix certain problems, my brain just can't. I can't in this heat. So I'm finding it a lot easier just to talk about mundane everyday things that's not related to plant care. Where was I? Oh yeah, so one question was, this question actually came from my sweet friend Carson. The question was, what are my favorite things to do in Vancouver? So Carson lives in Arizona, but he said he used to come to Vancouver all the time with his parents. So one thing about Vancouver is that it's oppressively expensive to live here in terms of like just the cost of living, but mainly it's real estate, it's rent, it's buying property here is insanely expensive. It's continuously one of the most expensive places in the world. And people make fun of Vancouver people for always harping on about how expensive it is, but it's like, it's a very big topic. Like it costs so much to live here. But at the same time, so many people are either trying to move here permanently or just coming here on working holidays. And it's for a lot of different reasons. And I think mainly it's to do with like where we are. We're close to mountains, we're close to ocean. And it's just quite a nice city because you have access to a lot here. People specifically move here for the skiing and snowboarding, and they will live here for a year or two so they can get a couple of ski seasons in. People will also come here for the hiking. It's a very good city for people who are into that kind of thing. I'm not really into that kind of thing. Listen, I love mountains. I love trees. I live in a wooded area. I love where I live, but I don't want to go up a mountain. I think I have a lot of trauma from my school days where they would force us to go on these hikes, like field trips, and it's like an 8-hour hike, very steep mountain. I thought I was going to die every time, and I think that made me so sad about hiking that I don't think I ever want to do it again. The only hikes I ever want to go on is like if the incline is like this, and then sometimes it flattens out and then it goes up a little bit. There's hikes like that in and around Vancouver. So like Lynn Valley is one of them. There's also Lynn Canyon. I can never remember which one is which. So obviously I didn't move here by my own volition. My family moved here when I was 3 years old. So I didn't really have to like have a good reason to be here. But my boyfriend moved here to work in coffee. He was going to take a working holiday. And the company that we met at is the reason why he moved here. And he was only going to work here for a year, and it's now 13 years he's been here. Now we own a house. I think our favorite things to do in Vancouver is always restaurant related. Vancouver does have a lot going for it in terms of food because there's a lot of variety. One second, I'm just trying to find the stem. I want to make sure there's at least 2 nodes on Charmaine's cutting, but I don't want to take too much of the root system off. I think I'm just gonna go somewhere you can't see, but I hope that is okay. Oh yeah, I see an axillary bud here. And there's quite a lot of roots. I might trim some off, or well, some came off. It's going to take a while to mature, but this is her little axillary bud here. One thing I really appreciate about Vancouver is there's a lot of good food, but at a really wide range of price points. So you have the fine dining, you have the mid-range, and you have really good food that's quite cheap too. I would say like in terms of the cheap food, it's a lot of it is Asian food. One thing that was quite weird to me, like when I went to Montreal a few years ago, the people who were there, who were to like host me, so to speak, I was going there for work. So like my coworkers from Montreal, they're like, you are going to love the prices here. Coming from Vancouver, the prices for food is going to just knock your socks off. It's going to be so cheap. And I didn't find that to be the case. I was only there for 2 weeks, so I didn't get like a full glimpse of Montreal. So don't take this as, fact. But what I found was in Montreal, there's a lot of great food. But if you're going to go cheap, it's going to be a lot harder to find good food at the cheap price point. So the really good food in Montreal, I found quite expensive. And basically in Vancouver, we were so spoiled for Asian food. It's just so available, like all different kinds of Asian food, and it's good Asian food. Okay, I'm gonna put this one in maybe, yeah, I think this will do. Is this too small? I did cut a lot of the root system off, but the next bigger one is this, and then that's quite, I mean, that's okay too. Do I have enough substrate even? Not really. I can chuck a bunch more pon into this tree fern bin to kind of stretch it out a little bit. I know I'm supposed to be talking about Vancouver and what I love doing about Vancouver, but really quick note to say that I was blown away when I was in Montreal. The summer fruit, they have strawberries and just berries in general that are next level, and it's so good, and they don't share. They gatekeep those berries, and rightfully so. It's so good. I would fly to Montreal just to go to the market and get like flats and flats of berries. I remember when I was there, we went to the market on one weekend, and then we bought all these berries, strawberries, blueberries, I forget, maybe we got something else, but we brought it back to the kitchen, and then the executive chef made a pavlova with it, and it was heavenly. It was like this beautiful lemon curd. I don't know enough about the requirements of berry growing to know why Quebec strawberries are so next level good. I think the only 2 places I've been, like my socks were knocked off by strawberries is Japan and Quebec. They're very different. Like Japanese strawberries are like these giant monstrosities that there's no explaining why it should be so juicy and so sweet. And then Quebec strawberries are much smaller, but they're so densely packed with flavor. What my boyfriend and I do for fun in Vancouver, like I said, is very food related. We like to go around, try different coffee shops. We also try to make time and and room in our budget to make to go to really nice restaurants at least a few times a year. A couple of restaurants I was trying to book for my birthday, and I was trying to book it like more than a month in advance, but I couldn't get a table. One restaurant is called Chez Celine. It's in our old neighborhood in East Vancouver, and it's like Quebec French food. It's kind of like a second location to St. Lawrence, which was a restaurant I talked about in the past. They won a Michelin star. Another one that I wanted to try was called Angela Pastificio. I don't know how to say it. It's a pasta restaurant that was opened by one or two chefs or one chef. Basically, there's a restaurant, a much older restaurant in like the Point Grey near to UBC area called La Quercia. I've had fantastic experiences with that restaurant, and the new owners of Angela were chefs at that restaurant. I also have a fascination with like the art of making pasta. Have you guys watched, I think it's called Chef's Table? Is it called Chef's Table on Netflix? There's an episode on pasta, and it's all about this one guy, Evan Funke, who basically he's been trying to kind of collect all the pasta traditions from different parts of Italy that are always passed on orally. So not a lot of it is documented. In order to know this, you have to learn it from like your grandma or something. But he's basically dedicated his whole life to pasta and then preserving the history and techniques of these women. But basically, Evan Funke does all his pasta without the use of machines. And having made pasta from scratch at home with the use of a machine, it is already difficult enough to make good pasta well, no, it's actually not that difficult, but I can only imagine how difficult it would be because I've tried it once. I tried to make tortellini by hand with the rolling pin. It is so hard, and the way he explains like where the weight distribution needs to be, if you're interested in that kind of thing, I do recommend that episode on Netflix. I keep getting distracted by talking about food. I am so sorry. What do I like to do in Vancouver? Okay, so Carson, if you're listening, he did tell me that when he comes with his family, he likes to go to Granville Island, which is this little like market area. It's not even an island. It's just like, it's a little bit surrounded by water. It's a huge tourist destination in Vancouver, but it's one of those tourist destinations that like local people actually go to. It's not just a tourist trap. I'll say the restaurants in Granville Island can be a little bit tourist trappy, so not all of them are good restaurants, but I really do love to go and what do I do there? We go to the market and we pick up usually like meats and cheeses. I don't even know what else we do. I just really always come away from Granville Island feeling like that was time well spent. But yeah, really like how we spend our time in Vancouver, our free time, just from an enjoyment perspective, has everything to do with food and beverage. You know, like in that episode of The Office, I forget what they were doing. They're trying to pick up the lunch place, and then Toby was like, oh, I forget. He was like being like annoying Toby about he picked a very obscure restaurant that nobody really wanted, but he was like, if we don't support the independent places, we're only gonna have like Taco Bell, something like that. And it obviously is meant to show like how annoying Toby is, but I really do want, like, so many great restaurants are closing down, and it's not just here, it's all over the world because it's so hard, like with what the economy is like right now for independent businesses to stay afloat. And especially with restaurants, it's just so important to like support the ones that are actually doing good food that resonates with you. Hold on, I'm just gonna pour the rest in. It's not even enough substrate, even though I stretched it with more pond. It's only barely just enough to cover the roots, but it's not enough to hold the plant upright. I need like this much more substrate, but that is all the tree fern we have right now. Oh, and I still have the butt cut. I'm gonna have to do this off camera because I am so hot right now. I cannot bear being in front of camera after I've gone up and down the stairs with tree fern. Let me quickly double check if there are any very vital questions I need to answer today. I told you guys I was gonna get off topic because I don't think I stayed on topic once this video. There actually was a lot of questions on how to save plants, or basically a lot of rot happening and stuff. I do think I'm overdue for a video that's like helped me troubleshoot my Anthurium, but that actually takes quite a long time. I will do one soon. I just need to figure out my schedule first, but I will do one. Maybe I'll save a lot of the troubleshooting type questions for that. Okay, so my camera just died because I forgot to plug it into power. So in the time that I was charging it back up, I was looking through all the questions, and there are so many plant care related like help me questions that I think it warrants its own plant care repot, possibly not, maybe not repot. So that will be coming soon. But before I go, I'll answer one more question. It's kind of plant related, kind of personal. Per your last video, have you decided on what plants to bring whenever you move to the UK? It's still something we want to do, moving to the UK. I've already talked to my parents about it. My dad is not happy, but they're accepting of my decision. We also centered a mortgage around it, so we have just over 2 years left on our current mortgage. So between now and then, so much is going to change. So there's not much point in deciding now, because 2 years from now, my choices are going to be completely different. But I do think that my tastes are still going to be very Anthurium focused at that point. Maybe I'm not going to have as many plants at that point, but I think what will stay with me with plants is going to be Anthurium for the foreseeable future. So basically what I think my process is going to be is plants. I'm going to try to get an idea of what is available there. And if something I have is like really hard to get there, I might try to just like stump them all. So like basically I'll just take butt cuts of things, label them really well, maybe sell off all the tops, and then just bring the plants that I think like at that point in time, I don't want to live without. So if I bring something like this over and it doesn't survive, you know what? It's not the end of the world. But I think what makes sense to me is like bringing like the building blocks of the collection that you can then breed to make the hybrids I enjoy. So I would bring like a pure Carla, I bring like a pure Pap, you know, like stuff like that. I know these groups exist, but I've never known what groups they are. But like plant groups, like let's say an Anthurium addicts, but it's like based in Europe or based in the UK. Does that exist? I've tried looking for it, and maybe Facebook's is like not showing it to me because it's saying it's not relevant to you, you don't even live there. But I would love to join one of those groups just to see what's going on in Europe, because I know a lot is going on. I just don't know what it is. I only hear about it through the grapevine from people who are like, you know, leaving information in comments or like DMs and stuff like that. But if you know of an Anthurium group that's like Europe based or UK based, please let me know. I would love to join. I don't know if I'm allowed to join even, but if I am allowed in, that's a group I want to be in. But anyway, thank you guys for joining me for this repot, and thank you for everyone who submitted questions. Like I said, I will gather all the help my plant and troubleshooting and just plant care related questions and just do it in a separate video. I can't guarantee it'll be next week, but sometime soon. But in the meantime, if you didn't submit questions on Instagram, you have a pressing plant care question, please feel free to leave in the comments. But with that, I'm going to leave you here. I hope you guys are having a great day so far. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Mwah!